Continuing, number 4 is itlaq al-water, or the itlaq al-ma, or the issue of the purity of water, that is simply water, that it's not water with additives in it. Additives being that, for example, juice or rose water, what have you, anything that is added to the water where we no longer call it water. For example, rose water, we still refer to it as rose water, but in reality it's not purely water. It has a high concentration or high number of rose water within it. Issues such as juice, such as other liquids that are water-based but are not water to speak of. Number 5 is the purity of the parts. Now, we use the word purity here over and over again because the word purity in Arabic has many meanings that would translate into English. Or we should say has many meanings into Arabic but translate into English under purity. So the purity of the parts that are included in wudu, meaning that I cannot have, my arm should not be najis, there should not be blood on my hand, for example. I must remove that before doing wudu. Or if there's a small amount that during wudu it is removed. However, when it removed during wudu, that there is no traces of it, and that the water that I'm using is not najis as well. Preferably that the najasa is removed before wudu. Again, this goes to all parts, even the parts that are being wiped, that there should be no obstruction of dirt. That for example, our brothers who are painters, if they have paint on their arms, they must remove that paint before doing the wudu if that paint obstructs water from touching the skin. Or in the case of our sisters who might have nail polish for decoration purposes, if that nail polish obstructs water from actually coming in contact with the nail, that nail polish must be removed. That's for point number 5. Point number 6, that there is no religious restriction from using the water. So if you are ill and using the water will cause you pain, or will cause your ailment to prolong, then it is a religious obligation upon you not to use the water, because God does not want to harm us. God wants to purify us. And if that purification causes us harm, then our duty at this point is to move from water to tayammum, where we would use dirt instead of water in a specific manner, where we would wipe the forehead and the top, and wipe the top of our hands as a form of purification in replacement of wudu. So there is no religious restrictions from using the water, such as an ailment, as we said, or otherwise the individual must move over to tayammum, or must move on to tayammum. Number 7, order. Order meaning that we must start with the face, then washing the right arm, then the left arm, followed by wiping the top of the head, the left foot, then the right foot, then the left foot. So the order, meaning that the sequence of action must be done in order, in sequential order, meaning the face, the right hand, or the right arm, the left arm, wiping the top of the head, the right foot, then the left foot. Number 8 is sequence, and that is a customary sequence between the parts of wudu. And this is an important part, because a lot of our brothers and a lot of our sisters make this mistake. Let's go ahead and read the ruling, then we'll delve into it. Sequence or customary sequence between the parts of wudu, even if there is a short separation between the actions. However, in the case of emergency, like water running out or forgetfulness, it is enough that one starts with the following part before the previous part. What are we saying here? What we are saying is that the sequence between actions is that there isn't such a large gap between one action and the second action that customarily we would say that this individual is not doing wudu. And a lot of our brothers do this when they want to wipe their feet. So they go in, they wash their hands, their arms, so they wash their face, their arms, they wipe the head, and then they leave the washing area, and they take a stroll. They walk about 15, 20, 30 feet to where they would sit down, then they wipe the top of their foot. That renders your wudu nullified. that breaks your wudu. Why? Because there is no sequence in action. There was an action that fell between your wudu, between wiping the top of the head and the top of the feet. So what we must do is we must continuously move from one point to the other in sequence, from one part of wudu to the other. So when you wipe the top of the head, you must then wipe the top of the foot. Now some of our brothers will say, and our sisters will say, but wait a minute. What if I'm wearing socks? I can't go barefoot in the bathroom, for example, where I'm doing my wudu. What we do in that case is we would continue washing the left arm. So after you wash the left arm, you would continue washing the left arm. You don't stop washing the left arm. You don't wipe your head. You continue washing the left arm until you get to the point where you want to sit. Of course, until you get to the point where you want to sit, not that you go walk for a mile or so. But you walk a couple of feet where you can grab a seat, and this whole time you're continuously washing your left hand, your left arm, until you get to where you want to sit. At that point, you wipe the top of your head and the top of your feet, as mentioned earlier. Now, in the case of emergency, so while you're washing, while you're doing your wudu, so say that you have just finished washing your left arm, or your right arm, sorry, and the water ran out. What do you do now? At this point, so say that all you need to do is start up a motor, or you need to go to another room to get more water, or what have you. At this point, you can go to that other place and get water, or you can start up the motor, or what have you. However, the restriction here is that so say that you go from one room to the next room for water. So say that you had a bucket of water, that water ran out, you have to go to the other room to continue your wudu. Getting to the other place, if it is before the previous part has dried out, there's no issue. So I had just finished washing my right arm and the water ran out. Now I have to go to the other room where water is. If I get to the other room before the water had dried out from my right arm, it's fine. I can continue with my left arm. But if my arm had been has dried out due to heat, due to high winds, then the wudu is nullified and I have to start over again. So we'll continue on reading this. It says, in the case of emergency, like water running out or forgetfulness, if it is enough for the individual to start the following part before the previous part dries, as explained. The ninth and final point is the individual carries out the actions directly themselves. However, in emergency conditions, the individual can get assistance, can get help with the wudu from another individual, from another person, unable to, or if the individual is unable to carry out the actions themselves. So if, for example, a lot of our seniors who are ill, who cannot bend down to wipe the top of their feet, now there are conditions here, we'll cover those conditions. If this individual, our senior, our grandparents, our fathers, our mothers, they're old, they can't reach down to wipe their feet, then they can get assistance. Otherwise, if you're a fully able-bodied individual, you cannot get assistance. You have to carry out the action yourself. So it says, in this condition, the wiping must be done with the hand of the individual themselves. So say that an individual is old, they don't have the power to raise their hand to wipe the top of their head. But they are capable, if you take their hand, if you're the individual that's assisting, if you take their hand and you wipe for them, that's sufficient, that works. But if that is not possible due to a disability, for example, the helper can then take the moisture from the hand of the individual and wipe with it. So, for example, your grandfather, your grandmother, your senior in your community cannot wipe their foot, nor can their hand reach, even with assistance, they cannot reach to wipe their foot. At that point, you as the assistant must take water from the individual's hand that is doing the wudu, from the senior's hand, for example. You must take the moisture from their hand and use that moisture to wipe for them. I think that's quite clear. Inshallah, in our next episode, we will cover what is it that breaches wudu. So what is it that nullifies wudu? Well, we would have to restart our wudu. والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.